before the show started, this was years ago.
It was years ago,
decades ago?
It's over a decade. That's a frightening thought. Yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for just starting there. That's
while.
Perfect. Great. All right.
Todd would go on vacation with his wife, and he would come back, and he'd give me that wild, crazy-eyed look. Rental car. Sonata.
Yeah, you're right.
He would come back and use Sonata as a term for cars that could be better than they are, or should be better than they are.
Interesting. Yeah, I did.
Use it
You're right.
as a colloquial kind of term that
Sonata.
meant, why? Couldn't this be better? Why?
It was rental car spec is what it was. Yes, you're right. You're right.
Now, this was 4th or 5th generation, I think.
A while back. We're
years
now
ago.
in the 8th generation.
It's the
8th generation. I didn't even know this car had been around that long. 8 generations.
I didn't either. And to be honest, I've loved what Hyundai's doing in the past few years. And I'm thinking, all right, what are they going to do to the new Sonata? Because as far as competition and as far as where this car is in the marketplace, it's got to bring something different to really compete.
Yep.
And as far as sedans are concerned, what I love is that Hyundai is committed to sedans.
You're watching Everyday Driver. We make a TV show, podcast, and YouTube channels dedicated to great cars, driving adventures, and helping you find a car you'll love. Subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss a thing.
It's good news.
Well, think about the fact that Ford is out of this market, Chevy is out of this market.
You're right.
Dodge is out of this market.
You're right, yeah.
The American manufacturers have left this small / it's now mid-sized, this mid-sized market. They're gone. And so the big boys here are the Honda Accord and the Toyota Camry. And everybody else is fighting for also Ram status.
Yeah.
And the Accord and the Camry, honestly, it's almost like tracing paper as far as size is concerned. Those two cars and this, I'm not saying styling-wise, I'm saying actual like hard points. They're almost tracing paper over each other on exactly the same size. And here's the Sonata doing that as well, but trying to be something different in a market. I got to state it again. All of the American manufacturers used to make something here. They've all left.
Well, Hyundai has gone from the company that made, decent products, and then they went, a generation or two ago to something that is earning your business, to now a car that I believe is deserving your business.
I agree with that, yes.
Because I started to walk around this car. Let's start with design, as you said. Let's start with styling to differentiate it in the marketplace.
Okay, all right.
You cannot tell me that this new dynamic lasso is what it's called, that starts at the headlights and wraps around the entire DLO on the side windows.
Is that their term?
It's dynamic lasso.
Dynamic lasso.
This is interesting.
Wouldn't that be better on a truck?
No.
Okay, all right, sorry, go on. I'll let you land it, it's fine.
It's a chrome strip by day, but part of the strip up front at the LED lights is actually illuminated at night.
Yes.
But what Hyundai has done has changed the signature look of the car from day to night. You can't just say, wow, well, that's a cool line. No, the car looks entirely different, and it takes on a different character. This is actually beautiful. The lines around the car are beautiful, and good design can be timeless. Look at this shape. To differentiate itself in the marketplace, it's not just sedan. It's now taken on a coupe kind of shape, like the Stinger, what we like about Audi A7s, and it's a little bit more usable. It's kind of a hatch, but it's still a sedan.
And it still has a trunk, but it looks like it might have a hatch. It has that look for sure.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
The sides, right at this B pillar here, they're a little bit swollen. And you can tell because of that highlight along the lower rocker, it actually kind of bulges out, which makes it look like a larger car than it is. It gives it a little bit more solid appearance on the road.
Okay. All right.
And then every other line from the rear LED light signature on the back that matches the door handles on the interior to everything else about the car is cohesive. And you look at this and you think, wow, this is really well thought out.
Yes.
That dynamic light signature, and you can see where it ends. That's just where the lighting ends. But they've actually worked with materials. They've gone really, really far to make this car actually beautiful.
The only strike I have against the styling is I think that the front grille is a tiny bit sad. It's like the corners of the grille go down. It's like 10% Eeyore on the front.
Okay.
You know,
only 10%.
Because I think it's great looking, but those little corners, it's just that person that's almost sad. They've got little corners at the end going down. I'm being picky because I think overall it is unique looking. And that is the interesting thing also about if you talk about the competitors in this space, the main competitors. Honda Accord, Toyota Camry, this, and the Mazda 6 are the 4 major standouts in this category. All 4 of them have very unique styling from each other right now. They're almost exactly the same size. Almost exactly.
They do.
But they each have very distinctive styling in this space. This has been the area where cars just look like car forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And right now, they all have distinctive style. And I also think that Hyundai is doing it best on the interior.
I like that.
I think this interior is very impressive. You can tell in places, okay, there's hard plastic and they saved themselves some money, but it has many of the same exact interior look that we loved in that Palisade.
Yeah.
I like the two-tone. It brightens it up in here. It makes it just kind of accessible and nice and a good place to be. The only strikes I have against the interior is the seats are not quite supportive enough.
Okay.
Your thighs kind of roll out. It's not quite holding you quite well enough. Wide.
But
otherwise, this is a great interior. This has everything you can think of. But it also has smart cruise control that'll come all the way to a stop. It has every blind spot viewing, everything you can think of. I still love these gauges. This is a 12-inch screen in front of me here, and it reconfigures when you turn on the blinkers. Where it shows you off of your blind spot. Right. This is a whole separate 10-inch screen that's doing everything you can imagine, all of your Android Auto and Apple CarPlay and everything. This is a loaded press car. It is $32,000. You are hard pressed to try to keep the other ones in this space loaded out at only $32,000.
What's amazing is the engine. I could go on about design forever, but design does differentiate it in the marketplace, and I'm with you on the interior.
Yeah.
Let's talk about engines. The lower 2 trim levels are available with a larger displacement engine.
Isn't that interesting?
2.5 liter.
Yeah.
This car, the SEL Plus and the Limited, which is this, has a 1.6 liter 4-cylinder, but it's turbocharged. It has less power, but it's got a lot more torque.
But here's the thing, the power's like this tiny little situation of almost the same. This has got a little bit less horsepower and a little bit more torque, and the other one's vice versa.
Yes.
But it creates a lot of punch.
It does. It's got that turbo. Because I was looking at it and think, why? Usually you get the larger displacement engine.
You would think.
But no, this one has the turbo.
Yeah.
Which is cool because it also has, what's pretty interesting is Hyundai's continuously variable valve timing. It's always on, essentially. So it gives you actually better emissions, more power, all those kinds of things. They're putting a lot of technology for the price into this car. I'm pretty impressed coming away. I like this car. I like the style. Right. I like what Hyundai's doing.
Let me drive.
All right, you've got to drive this thing.
We will, of course, show you Smart Park in action. I can't say it. I have to. This is what the commercial has done for me. I have to say it. I have to over-enunciate it to make sure you're very clear. I'm not going to try to do Bostonian. We're going to show you Smart Park in action. My question about it is, how much are you really going to use this? How much is this going to be a, look what my car does?
The feature?
Yes, because first off, as a driver, you should know how to park. I know that sounds crazy, but you should know how to park.
Okay.
Secondly, if you're pulling into a space, and you'll appreciate this because of the way you keep your car so nice. If you're pulling into a space where the space is so tight that the only way to get it in there is for you to get out and to smart park your way in, you've just guaranteed yourself a door ding because the other guy is just going to walk up and just bang his door into the side and get in. He's just going to make sure he knows you're there.
There is that problem.
Yeah.
It does get the car into tight spaces, but again, other people don't have the smart park thing. And they won't care. So
they really won't care. That's the average person just get in.
I'm all for stuff like that, but that motor that's straightened up the wheels, you can feel in the steering. And more car manufacturers are doing the lane assist, which means there's a motor and a servo connected to the steering column, and you can feel that when you're just driving.
You're fighting it, yes.
Whether you're fighting it or you just feel it, you're working against the resistance of that motor.
The constant pressure of it. And
feel that.
That's not a slight against Hyundai. Anybody that's doing these kind of systems, you can feel it. And of course, fighting to turn it off is the other big thing. I have to come back to, I don't believe the stats versus the sensation in this car. And I mean that in a good way.
Okay.
Just real quickly, 1.6 liter engine.
Tiny little engine.
Now granted, you can get an Accord with a 1.4, but 1.6 liter turbo 4, about 190 horsepower and about 185 pound-feet of torque. All of those numbers are small. All of them are.
Sure.
It doesn't feel like that. It feels like I've got plenty.
Sure.
I've got plenty.
This is not a car.
Exactly, but this is not a car that people are going to drive and hoon. It is a car that people are going to, well, frankly, kind of trundle along in or commute in, which is where that smart cruise control all the way to stopping and starting again is going to be great in traffic. This will get mid-30s miles per gallon because of that tiny little turbo engine. But anytime I put my foot in it, the calibration of the throttle and the way the engine responds, this car feels far more powerful than the numbers suggest, and I think it is plenty for anybody that is shopping in this space. And it is almost exactly the same kind of numbers you get out of those Accords and Hondas. I mean, Hyundai's paying attention, and they're doing their own twist on exactly what everybody else is doing so they can really fight in this space.
Yeah.
The Sonata is, at this point, really competitive.
Extremely. I keep saying that I love it. You're accelerating right now. It gives you that surge.
It does.
That feels naturally aspirated. It doesn't feel that switchy, torquey, oh, there's the turbo kind of feel. It doesn't do that.
And I submit again, it is a surge beyond what the numbers suggest.
Yeah.
I don't drive this car with those numbers in the back of my head. I go, yeah, that feels about right. I go, wait a minute. That's all it says. This is one of those can't drive a spec sheet moments where the stats of tiny engine, small numbers do not equate when you sit here. And again, I'm just in normal mode. I'll go to, I can go custom. Custom is purple in all Hyundai products, but I'm in sport mode. A little bit better throttle calibration, but this is not a backroad carver at all. And yet, look what I'm doing.
It's not really designed to be, but I keep saying that I'm impressed with this. And the reasons are the attention that Hyundai has paid to every area. First of all, the chassis. It's the 8th generation Sonata on a 3rd generation car chassis from Hyundai. And so their intent was to actually make it a little bit sportier to drive. A little bit of fun, why can't we? And to have sport mode and customization all at this price?
Yes.
I say bring it. So the other area is aerodynamics. And I know that by virtue of just shape, cars are fairly aerodynamic. But what Hyundai has done is gone after the underbody and kind of gone obsessive about covering the entire floor. Wherever they can put a flat panel, they have. You'll also notice on the rear taillights, they have what's called air unifiers. Those little fins on the top of the taillight are air unifiers.
Yes, the ridges, yes, the lizarding, yes.
You think, okay, what is this little crazy thing doing here? You find that maybe on race cars or hopped up Evos or something like that.
Yeah.
Really what they're thinking about is that laminar airflow and detaching it from the car and unifying the airstream coming off the back of the car, all for fuel efficiency and making the car more quiet. It's little touches all over the car that you think, well, that's cool. They thought of that. They paid attention to whatever. Name the category. Todd was talking about the engine. The steering is not a race car. It's not a coupe. It's not a Lotus or a Cayman.
No, it's not. Nothing
but it's
like that.
It's kind of fun.
I think they've done a really good job of being surprising with the dynamics of this car. And it isn't a fun car on a back road. It's not. Here I am ducking trucks here.
Yeah, wow.
Okay, hang on. Here we go. Acceleration being shown right now. I mean, come on. That's not...
It's not pinning you back in your seat.
But this is the reason everybody buys 4 cylinders in these cars. Because, and you can get 6s in like the Camry and the Accord and that kind of stuff. Even the Mazda's they've got almost 300 horsepower out of their Turbo 4. This is plenty for the way most people are going to drive it. I will say, I think the ride is a little bit more jittery than I was hoping for. It's a little unsettled for what I was hoping for because of the kind of buyer I think this is targeted at. I think this is the trade-off of the sporty feel, and I'll go back to normal. This is the trade-off of the sporty feel. It does give you a little bit more of a, I'm paying attention. Okay, I can do some
Which is what I like, which is probably why I didn't notice it as
both
much.
of us like. But I think for this market, it's a tiny bit jittery. It's a tiny bit just too taut, if you will, for the kind of people that are going to buy this. These are the only downsides for me. I want the seat to be a little better in support of my thighs, and I also want this to have a little bit softer ride. I think for the average buyer, I would give up a little bit of the sportiness to gain that ride quality back. For the kind of buyer you're selling this to and the kind of people that are going to use it, which is, I need smart park, I want smart cruise control, I want a nice place to be, and this is a fantastic place to be.
I do see your point on the ride quality, but you can tell what Hyundai has done is maybe up at a notch, a half a notch, towards what if it were a little bit sportier? What if you were willing to have a little bit of a tauter ride, that kind of feel? It gives you everything else you're looking for in the competition, but okay, maybe that pushes a buyer over the edge.
I keep coming back to everything that's here for $32,000 And it's also just feels nice. It's just a nice place to be. It looks nice. The interior looks nice.
It's better than a lot of cars double this price.
It's better than, I was going to say, a lot of cars in the $50,000 range.
Hands
you could
down.
pull this out and be like, what did this cost now?
Yep. If you really break it down, other cars in this class, sure, but we're talking $50,000, $60,000 cars that we've been in.
Yeah,
and we're thinking,
right.
Okay, from a material standpoint, design, wow. Wait, this was just over 30?
And
really?
loaded at just over 30.
Loaded.
All the tech you can think of is here, for sure.
Which is brilliant. And again, I come back to design being the differentiator over your competition. You're looking in this category.
It has to be.
But Hyundai has done it. Look around the car. Look at the cohesive shapes. The entire interior was stealth aircraft. It was just clean. The pod where all the instruments are and where the information is settled and needs to be, everything else is clean. The floating door handles here, it actually makes the door, the pull, everything about it is just clean, well thought through. It's now in the category where no longer are we saying, well, this guy, he's not saying Sonata anymore. It's more like Sonata.
I'm saying, have you looked at the Sonata? Have you seen the Sonata? Granted, this is not the rental car spec, but again, it loaded at 32 grand. This is that value for money thing. Honestly, that Lexus did when they showed up, this is what Hyundai's doing now at this level with Sonata.
Couldn't agree more.